Hey, this is Charles Rosenay, author of the book of Top 10 Horror Lists, Dracula Tour and Ghost Tour organizer, Beatle convention producer, so many hats. Not wearing any of them today, but I'm so glad to be on the air with you because you're listening to the Never Gets Old podcast with Mac Jackson.
My name is Ichabod Crane.
Name's MacGyver. Colonel Jack O'Neill, SG-1.
I am Batman!
Hello, I'm the Doctor.
So there's this man, he has a time machine. Up and down history he goes, zip, 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 getting into scrapes.
For years, and maybe more than that, right, Mac? But how long has it been? Has it been 6, 7 years ago?
Are you telling me that you built a time machine? Out of a DeLorean?
Hey, now wait a minute. Now wait just a minute.
Human beings were not meant to sit in little cubicles staring at computer screens all day.
I've got something for you.
Oh, merci, Sonora. Just one more thing, sir.
Oh boy.
Just like that. Bing, bang, boom.
At this point, I'd settle for the boom.
They'd love it here, don't you think?
This is what I'm saying.
And by the way, where is your podcast? Tell everybody that's here.
Welcome to the Never Gets Old podcast. The podcast of all we love in TV, movies, music, and comics. With your hosts, Mac Jackson and Nathan Shell. Subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Facebook, and YouTube. Donations at paypal.com at macwjackson@comcast.net.
Listen to my tripping songs, DJ saying that they're too long. His guitar may be silenced, but his soul goes on and on. Alone again, alone again. His stories were like us, a beginning and an end, alone again. Now I listen in my room.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of the Never Gets Old podcast. I'm your host, Mac Jackson. And today, if you're it's Charles Rosenay, but if you are listening to Monkee Mania Radio, you already know who he is. But he also is into the Beatles and has a new book. The Top 100?
Book of Top 10 Horror Lists.
That's what it is. I was going to say top 10, but I thought, what if it's 100 and I just undersold it?
Well, we're going to get to that because there's a reason why you thought it was 100. There's a very good reason.
Go ahead, tell me.
100 celebrities gave me their top 10 horror lists.
That's probably why I'm thinking that.
And it's, 9 Monkee chapters, 9 Beatle chapters, tons of actors and rock stars and horror people, and it's just a fun book. But yeah, the original title was a book of 100 top 10 the horror list, but we took out the 100 in the title, so you probably knew that psychically. And it's the book of top 10 horror lists.
Well, okay, so I know we'll go off in tangents because that's just what we do here.
Yeah.
But that's fine. I'm wondering, what motivates you to go, out of all the things I'm going to, I have many irons in the fire myself, but
yeah.
For someone to go, out of all the things that I'm doing, I think I really want to focus on doing this book. What was it that made you? Because, understandably, that's a giant commitment. That's not just a weekend project. That takes years.
Mac, people have always said, when am I going to write that Beatles book or that Monkees book or that entertainment, something that they thought was more in my, roundhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And I always said, I'm not, because in the day I published a magazine called Good Day Sunshine. And it was a Beatles mag that came out 6 times a year, 80, 100 pages, whatever. And I was thinking, no, wait a second. I am writing a book literally every other month. I'm never writing a book. but pandemic changes things.
Oh,
When COVID hit, not DJing. That's just my normal thing is I DJ parties. I'm a party DJ. I'm not doing Beatle tours. I'm not doing Dracula tours. I'm not doing band promotions and bookings. I'm not doing all the stuff that Charles Rosenay does. And I'm home. We're watching horror movies with the kids. We're listening to Beatles and Monkees, and we're having a good time. But my creative juices are stagnating. They go to sleep at midnight. I'm on the treadmill thinking, what is the next thing to do? Well, so I partnered up with a friend, and we decided we're going to do a paranormal convention when things get normal. Did that. But I realized on my database, I had about 70 or 80 top 10 horror lists from friends of mine in the industry, rock stars and music people and all. I thought, wait a second, maybe I could do something with these lists, having forgotten about them because I had them for 12 years. I used to do an online newsletter called National Horror Happenings, which was kind of the counterparts of, instead of putting out a Beatles magazine for all those time, I thought, well, I'm done with that. I love horror. I want to put out something that's going to promote the Dracula tour. I thought I'll do a daily newsletter. And it was a quickie, what new horror movies coming out? What can I review? Anything monster news. And somewhere down the line, I did a top 10 list from someone, and it was the most successful of the newsletters. It got the most hits, the most eyeballs. When you do a podcast, you can measure, some don't get any views and some get, whoa, this was off the charts. Like mine will be off the charts. You get it. But the top 10 list really clicked, and I get it. A top 10 list, it's short, it's quick, and you want to see what this rock star's, favorite movie is or whatever. So long story short, we had about 70, 80 of them in the computer. I thought, if I could do 20, 30 more, it won't take me long. As all these people I haven't, tapped into, I can put out a book. And I thought, well, that's going to be easy. I just do the lists, but it's never that easy.
Sure.
I had to write bios for every one of them.
Yeah.
If they had a horror connection, I had to tie it in. So Gloria Gaynor did a top 10 list, and I thought, I Will Survive. Well, that could be the title of a horror movie, Escaping from the Cabin in the Woods. So that was like the intro to it. And then I had to come up with a great photo of each of the people who gave me lists. And then if they picked, I don't know what, Night of the Living Dead, I had to come up with a great poster or still to insert in their chapter so that people were getting, something of, of real good substantiality, and hit the 100 really quick. Got a great author, got a great editor who did an index, and that turned out to be very important because let's say Mac Jackson's favorite, horror movie is The Blob. You want to go right to the back of the book and go to The Blob and see, wait, really? William Shatner's favorite movie is also that? You want to see
Sure.
favorite movie. Whoa, Mickey Dolenz loved those kind of movies too. So a lot of it is that. A lot of it is people loving the book because they're seeing what all these celebrities picked as their favorite horror movies. And it's more of a celebrity book, pop culture book than it is a horror movie. And people are loving it. I'm getting great reviews on Amazon, and it's been a blast.
And I'll tell you, you found a fun niche for it too, because you're right. I mean, you go, okay, rock and roll guy, love that stuff, love the band, love the individual. Oh boy, no, I don't think anybody's bothered to say, do you like horror? And if so, what's your favorite?
Yeah.
So to do that, you're right, because nobody else comes at it from that angle. And they go, oh, okay, maybe, if they could get into why, because like you and I, if we go down a tangent, well, let's just keep going. Oh, I'll tell you this story, or I'll tell you that story, or, now you do that with somebody who's already loved and a celebrity, like, give me more. And nobody else is going to do that kind of a book.
I'm really proud of it. Someone had done a horror top 10 list of something or other and wrote a really nasty comment when I released it. And I'm like, wait, it's a totally different book. You did top 10 werewolves, top 10, blah, blah, blah. You did all your top 10. This is a celebrity book. And he never responded. I shut him right up. You know what's interesting is the sequel to it, of course, will be Bride of the Book of but I'm doing an offshoot, the Book of top 10 Beatle lists. Where celebrities are going to give me their top 10 favorite songs and themes. I know it's going to be a big hit, but it's tougher. I'm hitting a lot of walls because people aren't home isolated where they have nothing to do. Now all of a sudden they're on the road, they're touring. It's homework, you know.
Yep.
And a lot of people really, they don't want to say, well, how come I put this Beatles song ahead of this Beatles song? I didn't have that problem with horror movies. All right, here's 10 of them. The Exorcist is number one. With Beatles, people are, you know, they have to give it a lot of thought. I'm getting some people who are in both, which is really cool. Dennis Dunaway from Alice Cooper's band, Ron Dante from the Archies. But then there are some that have said, you know, Charles, I'm going to pass on this one. What can I do, right? I can't force them.
Wow. You know, and it's funny too, because again, you mentioned something like Beatles. Well, sure, people are going to turn their heads and want to check it out. And especially if it's another musician talking about the Beatles. Well, geez, you know, and you're right. How do you limit? It's something that you love. How do you possibly go, well, what's your favorite? I can never answer those questions because, first of all, I don't think I'm that limited with my view as far as appreciation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Two, with movies or definitely with music, some songs hit you later on in life different than like I always use the example of like Harry Chapin. Love, adore Harry Chapin, but I remember playing stuff for my dad who also likes Harry Chapin. You know, when I dive in, if you get past my wall of, like, I'm a real tough critic, but if you get past that wall, well, now I want everything that they have. I want bootlegs. I want so I don't kind of go in with it. Well, I played stuff for my father and he'd go, mm-hmm. I go, isn't that a great song? He goes, yeah, but I could see why it wasn't a hit. I'm like, well, it wasn't put out as a single, but besides the point, over time, that song, through life experience or whatever, will all of a sudden hit you in a new light. You go, you know what? I appreciate that more.
Yes.
Right? Because when you first listen to an album, and you know this, first time through, you go, okay, that one grabbed me. That one's okay. Okay, that's a slower one, whatever. Because in your mind, you know what you want and you know what you've heard before from that artist. So it's kind of an unfair disadvantage when you bring in new material. But once you settle down with it and you accept it for what it is, now it's on its own terms. And you go, I really like that one that it didn't grab me the first 10 years, you know.
It's so funny because forever, you know, my favorite song, when people ask me what's my favorite Beatles song, I would say, oh, it's going to Here, There, and Everywhere. And when I get married, it's going to be my wedding song. Sure enough, it was one of my 2 wedding songs. I also had a Monkees one.
Which one?
Oh,
you're in trouble.
I Will Always Love You by Davy Jones.
Oh, okay. Sure.
No. Love You Forever.
Yeah.
No,
I knew which one you meant, honest to God. Even though you said it different, I knew which one you were going with.
I Love You. That's Whitney Houston.
Yeah.
But I'll Love You Forever by Davy Jones. And there's kind of a reason why. It's because he proposed to my future wife at the time on my behalf at a concert.
That's sweet.
So he did the proposal and she of course said yes, and we're still together. And you know what's great is that we had to have that with Here, There, and Everywhere as the first dance, 2 first dances. But in regard to what you said, While My Guitar Gently Weeps is probably my favorite song now, and it never was for 30 years, and just somehow, you know, it changed. And I think that's what you were getting. I think that's part of your whole discussion there, is with songs, even more than movies, they change, and they could even change daily. You know, I do the Beatle tours to Liverpool, and when we go it's during Beatle week, we go every year, every summer, and we spend 3 days in London, a whole week in Liverpool. And I am Beatled out when it's done. But
Sure.
but before I'm going, I don't listen to Beatle tunes for 2 weeks. I am like, it's like I'm fasting from Beatle music, knowing that I'm going to be onslaughted with it 24 hours during Beatle week.
Yep.
And, you know, I come away thinking I'm never going to listen to Come Together and Get Back again.
Me too. Me too.
and then the Get Back show that comes on Disney, and it's like, damn, these songs are amazing. I love them.
I watched the first episode of that so far because I thought, well, it's an hour. So I grabbed, you know, my son and I, we sit down and we start to watch it. Oh, no, that's like 2 hours long, and that's just one episode. But it really, I'm a sucker for that behind the scenes, whatever band it is, even if it's not a band I necessarily like. If I could see them sit down and work on a song in the studio, well, give me. And to have Paul McCartney come in and start just riffing, and he doesn't know what he's doing yet. And you go, holy crap, that becomes this song.
It'll be a song, right?
You know, wow.
It's so it's scary. It's so brilliant. It's scary. Yeah.
Were you always I assume you're like the rest of the world, and all of a sudden you're born knowing who the Beatles are?
Well, you know, I'm a little older than you think, buddy. I was there, and my first two memories in life are seeing the Beatles and Ed Sullivan, and my mom forcing me, thank God she did, to watch Bride of Frankenstein. So I grew up loving monsters, loving the Beatles, and loving the Mets. Those were my three passions growing up.
Yeah.
And, and they all stuck with me. You know, I still watch all the games. I still try to see every monster movie that comes out. Still collect all the Beatle bootlegs, and obviously I've made all those things such a big part of my life.
Sure. Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I was going to also say with the monster movies. So you prefer the old classics, like obviously Dracula and Wolfman and stuff.
You
Are
see
those
them behind me, don't you?
Yeah. They're
That's
more.
That's
Those are more of your go-tos.
My genre. So, you know, when you grow up with a certain era of music, if you're a certain age, you know, it's going to be the 60s. If it's a different age, it's going to be the said disco. You know, I think what you grow up with is what you love, unless you're that rare breed. Like your kids are probably like my kids. We've brainwashed them to love all the genres of music and all that. We're not just letting them listen to today's music, right?
As a matter of fact, my kids are very much like me and don't like today's music because the quality, I always say the quality of what's allowed drops every 10 years. Like, you know, it used to be you had to be a good singer, like Sinatra and Dean Martin, because if you weren't, get off the stage, you have a band behind you.
Right.
Well, then you get into bands like Monkees and Beatles where you're writing your own songs and picking up your guitar and singing too. So now you're multifaceted.
Yes.
They don't need to even sing well nowadays because they have auto-tune and it's all manufactured. Like, you know, there's no adherence to quality. They just go, I know it's crap, but I'm going to produce it and I'm going to put it in a commercial. Like, come on, let's have some sort of standard.
I just want a song that has a riff that I'll remember, that has a great hook and a middle eight, you know, and I can sing along to it. Not
and
just
it's catchy and happy and good. And because, you know, there are artists in this world that I understand. I'm not going to necessarily love, but I don't begrudge them having a career. Like I'm not a Whitney Houston or not a Whitney Houston fan, but I was going to say Celine Dion. I always use it as an example. I'm not a fan, but she deserves the career she has because she's belting out these songs and she's obviously got talent. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And so I can make peace with that. May not be my cup of tea, but by all means, thank you for contributing to the world.
But we're also still talking about an artist who hasn't had a hit in 30 years. So that's.
But she doesn't need to. You know what I mean?
Need to. Right.
That's more of that. I think that's more of
the artist. Yeah.
The music people, not the artist. It's the, you know, well, you've had your 5 years. The industry is moving on, no matter how good you are.
Right.
Which is where I really love that we have artists who go, all right, fine, you helped me for those 5 years, but with this money, like for me, I couldn't stop writing and singing if I wanted to. It's just I have to do it. So if you make money off a couple hits,
Yeah.
well, now the rest of your life, if you're smart, just keep making music because there is an audience that will buy it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So we live in that kind of world where, okay, so you're not on TV all the time. Who cares? You're still, your audience will find you.
And you're still getting hopefully a royalty check that's
Sure.
sufficient. But getting back to the original question, yeah, I love and grew up with Dracula and Wolfman and Frankenstein, all-time favorite. But it's hard to watch now.
Right.
If I sit down with my kids and put on a Four Seasons song, Supreme song, a song they haven't heard, Raspberries, they'll love it. They'll love it. If I put on Bela Lugosi, it's slow, it drags.
Sure.
I get it.
Sure.
It's tough to watch. But if we put on, X or A Quiet Place or one of the real contemporary horror movies, they're great. They do capture you. So that's a case of whereas music may not have evolved the way it should have. I do think that monster movies have evolved into horror movies. They took a detour with the slasher films. They took a detour with gore and, torture porn films.
Exactly.
But they've come back. And I think there's a lot of great quality films that are coming out and a lot of great filmmakers.
Yeah, I'm with you. Especially the older I get, I always try to go back to the classics. Like every year now for the last 2 years, I have the family around Halloween will watch Psycho.
Mm-hmm.
And Anthony Perkins is always brilliant to watch. When they're talking in the room and he's eating a sandwich and that whole monologue that he has, beautiful. Yeah. And it's one of those that my kids, 13 and 10,
yeah,
they're like, yeah, I'm into this. Like they'll appreciate it.
Well, I met your kids and they are cool.
Thank you.
They're hip, they're cool, they get it.
They really do. I always teach them to be leaders, not followers. So they've always done what they felt they liked and didn't try to care about what their classmate liked. Like, how do you like, whatever? And if they stick to their guns, the right people kind of come around to them and go, tell me more about the Monkees. Tell me more about the Beatles or whoever, Harry Chapin.
Sure.
Because they hear it and, I will say they are exceptional people. And it's just keeping them on that course, which they're well on their way. But like I'm saying, I can go back now and maybe we will watch The Wolfman. Or maybe we will watch the one I heard is better than Bela Lugosi's Dracula. You know who Dana Gould is?
Yeah.
Okay. He loves Planet of the Apes and he's a stand-up comedian and a writer. And all
comic, right? Yeah.
He does a podcast called The Dana Gould Hour. Well, in the middle of his interviews, he'll do this segment where he talks about very interesting but bizarre type stuff. Like, isn't it, you never made the connection between this and that. Well,
Mm-hmm.
he talks about things like the Dracula movies and how the original book is pretty boring,
right,
and all of that. Well, he said that the one that's better than Bela Lugosi is the one with in the 70s with
Christopher Lee.
Thank you. That's the one.
Of course.
Is it? Okay, because I haven't seen it. I will sit down and watch it.
The first one, Horror of Dracula, was brilliant. I remember seeing it in a theater as a double feature. There was the Frankenstein one, and there was the Dracula one, both played by Christopher Lee. Peter Cushing was part of the Hammer films. And yeah, I thought, I said, this guy blows away, but every era of vampires, I think gets better and better, but you can only go so far with vampires and zombies till you've, kind of reached, it can't get better. This is where as good as it's going to get. But someone brought this up the other day and they were right. If you talk Dracula and you tell any age group, go ahead, imitate Dracula, they're going to go, I want to suck your blood.
Sure.
Who are they doing? They're doing Bela.
Of course.
Bela Lugosi. And, that in itself goes a long way because you're not imitating Christopher Lee. You're not imitating Frank Langella. You're not imitating any other person who played the vampire, you're doing the original, and that's that's a statement in itself.
Well, because he was the one that actually made it cool looking. Like he looks cool. He looks like he walks into a room, you go, whoa, okay, look at the cape and the and the pennant and all that. And even I saw a SpongeBob thing for like a blow up inflated SpongeBob Halloween.
Yeah.
And he was dressed as Dracula and he had the widow's peak. and I had to explain to the kids. I said, look, see that black thing on his head? That's supposed to be his hair. And they said, why did they do that? I said, let me tell you about Bela Lugosi.
Butch Patrick, who followed, so many followed in those footsteps.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And they're making Rob Zombie's doing a movie, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those like
right. You cringe until you see it, and hopefully we'll be pleasantly surprised.
I hope
so. His Halloween films, although I don't love them as much as the John Carpenter ones, are solid.
I'll tell you, I watched the first. I guess he made two, right? I watched the first one, and you know what? Up until the last half hour, I was glued to. I mean, the last half hour is walking through killing people. Spoilers, but up until then, you're getting a really psychological thriller that shows what a messed up little kid he was.
Sure.
I really thought that was superior than, say, like the original kind of skips over that. They go, yeah, he was a goofy kid, and then they get to the killing, where in this version, most of the movie is him growing up.
Yeah.
That's great.
And Mickey Dolenz is in it, so that gives it another.
Wow, I forgot about that.
But so Rob Zombie is a fan, and loves the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta trust that it's going to come out right, because you look at his House of Thousand Corpses. You look at the one with the three.
It's the same characters,
the same guys, and that stuff is great on a different level. It's not something I'm going to show my kids and say, here, this is what you're going to study horror over, but it's that next level of. I love his stuff. I love his work. So I have high hopes for the Munsters.
I hope, because what did they do? The Shadow one. With Johnny Depp.
Dark Shadows.
Dark Shadows. And I didn't see it yet.
Yeah.
People are saying I shouldn't, because it's kind of like a comedy, right? It's not supposed to be.
It's a dark comedy. And, I think that, don't forget, Dark Shadows was redone as a
in the 90s. That was great.
Ben, I forgot his name.
I know.
Yeah.
But it was great. I used to, I would watch that on a Saturday when it came out, and I went, I'm watching this forever. And then the Iraq War hit and took it right off the air. That's what happened to it. Yeah.
That was a good era, because it was just after Night Stalker. I mean, there was a lot of quality TV, and that begot, Buffy. There's a whole slew of stuff that I think of and smile. I said, wait, when my kid's going to get to this? I got to get them exposed to other things too. But I think the Dark Shadows one, which we all saw as a family in the movies, was okay. It was unnecessary more than anything else.
I gotcha.
You find that a lot with these remakes, that they're just,
Yeah, like, why'd you bother? If you're not going to improve on it, then you're just, messing with stuff.
Throwing it out there, hoping it sticks to the wall, and there could be future sequels and franchises. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. Well, what I was thinking as we're talking, you know what I kind of dig now? I don't like like you said, the torture porn kind of movies where it's just hack. And I also don't like where they're intentionally following the wait until somebody gets killed and they all get picked off, like the old 80s movies. You go, okay, that one's going to die, then that one.
Right.
It's predictable, whatever. I love a psychological thriller, like ones where, nobody necessarily even has to die all that often.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole time you're wondering, who is it? What's their motive?
Mm-hmm.
And if it pays off, dynamite. Like that's Yeah, I can find those, I'm a very happy guy.
Yeah, and when people say, what's my favorite horror movies, and it's very difficult, but the one I always leave out, and is it a horror movie? Yeah, well, ghosts, so I guess it is. It's The Sixth Sense.
Love Sixth Sense.
Because
that's one of my favorites. Right. That's exactly a perfect example.
Yeah.
Because
the Others is another one. I don't know if you've ever seen it with Nicole Kidman.
It saw it.
Same level of oh my God,
yeah, they were dead the whole time. Well, that's I'll never forget. I went to see Sixth Sense with my buddy, and probably like everybody else, we're all sitting there going, and I mean, I'm enjoying it, but I don't know where it's going, and I don't know why it's even happening. Okay, he's got a problem with his wife.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, man, I am gonna walk out of here, and I'm gonna be ticked. And then all of a sudden, the ring hits the floor and rolls. Yeah, when the ring hits, a memory that I'll never lose is it going tink 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 and rolling across the floor, and the whole audience goes.
Right.
Yeah, when they did that, we all came together as one and went, holy crap, this just made the last 2 hours worth it.
Agreed. And in a theater, that movie was such a wow. It was such a wow. And I forget, people on these interviews always say, well, what's your favorite top 2, top 3? And it changes. I try to be consistent, but Sixth Sense has got to be in there. It's just so wonderful.
I'll tell you. Go ahead.
Best Bruce Willis ever did, in my opinion.
Me too. And I love
Die Hard.
No. The other one from M. Night, that with the two of them, Unbreakable.
Oh yeah, Unbreakable. The first.
Yeah, great. I didn't like the way the last movie ended. Glass.
It wasn't as good. It was a Glass, or was it there ones after?
There was one in between.
Yeah.
But Glass brought all 3 characters together, and which was exciting, and wow, this is great. And then the way it ends, I'm like, what the no?
Yeah. It didn't live up to what it should.
But up until that ending, I was enjoying the whole journey.
Yeah.
I'll tell you another one. Carrie. Carrie is one that I saw as a kid, and when that hand comes up out of the grave, it still gets you. But what keeps that on my list is you watch it anytime. It has, besides the story, besides how creepy she is, the music soundtrack that goes with it and the pacing of that movie.
Pacing is amazing.
And then they have that one weird segment where they're all going to get their tuxes for the prom.
Yeah.
And it's very lighthearted and goofy, 70s goofy, that gets crammed in this weird movie that you go, oh, I can kind of relax for this, next 3 minutes, and then it hits you at the end. And the of course, the fire and everything, and the way she offs everybody is creepy as can be, because with a look, she's wiping people out, and you're like, they kind of deserve it, but not everybody deserved it.
Sissy Spacek was amazing. Let's look at who picked Carrie as their favorites. Some are well known. Some are not so well known, but Frank Jekyll, who was the leader of the 1910 Fruit Gum Company, picked it. Christian Nesmith, who of course
I know him.
Mike Nesmith's son. Gary Puckett from Gary Puckett and the Union Gap.
Yep.
Yeah, Jerry Reichel, who's fake Jan from the Brady Bunch.
Just saw her at that convention.
She was at that convention, right? And Beverly Washburn, who's an old-time actress. There's a few more, but those are the ones that stand out. And what was the other movie we talked about before? Oh, Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
I was curious to see, which people are as astute as us, as us, and pick that, because it doesn't always come to mind with horror films. Sixth Sense is sometimes forgotten, and so. Very few, actually. Mickey Dolenz picked it.
Very good, Mickey.
Don Grady, one of my 3 sons, who's since passed, and James Lee Stanley.
I know James.
I know you do, because you're a good Monkees fan. And he's one of those people who I always call one of the world's greatest musicians who the world doesn't know.
Mhm.
But he,
Yeah.
of course, was a partner of Peter Tork's in two-man band, and he's a great guy. And he gave me a great horror list. So those were some of the few. But what surprised me is I looked down, and there was a episodic show similar to Alfred Hitchcock and Twilight Zone called The Sixth Sense.
Really?
And William Shatner picked Can a Dead Man Strike from the Grave, a 1972 Sixth Sense episode. Wow, right? So
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. Yeah, I'm really proud that we got Shatner in here. William Shatner is the only person in the book who got 2 chapters.
Sure.
One was his top 10 favorite list, and part 2 was my list of what I thought were William Shatner's best genre roles.
Okay.
That should have been in here.
You're gonna say Twilight Zone, I'm hoping.
You better believe it.
And it's not even the airplane one. It's
Well,
not
but-
Nightmare 30,000. For me, it's the Nick of
Nick
Time.
of Time. Wow, 1960, Nick of Time.
Love it.
Nightmare at 20,000 or 30,000, whatever, 100,000 feet was 1963. I put in 2 of his Outer Limits episodes.
Mhm.
And he was also twice on Hitchcock Presents,
Mm.
twice on Thriller. There's a lot of those type of shows. So I guess it was the Sixth Sense episode that I put that he was on, as well as Ray Bradbury Theater. He picked, I shouldn't give it away, right? Because people should
You
buy
can
the
tease
book.
them. They will.
Shatner's favorite number 1 was Psycho.
Sure.
And he puts The Moment Mother Turns to the Camera.
That is a great moment. Wouldn't hurt a fly.
2, Night of the Living Dead. 3, The Strangers, which is amazing because those home invasion movies.
Right?
4, he put The Shining. 5, he put Halloween. 6, The Exorcist.
Mhm.
7, Jaws. And here's the only old classic. You would think Shatner would have done more old classics. House of Wax, 53,
Sure.
Vincent Price. And then Silence of the Lambs and Aliens. Very surprising, but a great list from William Shatner in the book, top 10 horror lists.
You know, speaking of The Exorcist, I knew Jason Miller.
Oh, wow.
Because I'm born and raised in Scranton, which is where he was from. Well, I knew him as a friend of, well, he went to school with my parents. So I'd see him now and again in town, and oh, that's Howie. That was his nickname, Howie. So when my parents would see him, we'd stop and say hi and everything, and then they'd say, he's in the movie The Exorcist, and he wrote that championship season, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So years later, I start performing. I start playing twice a week, 9 to 2 at a place called Kilcoins. Show up with my guitar and sing my little heart out. Well, he would always be there. That was like his go-to place. And of course, being that he's Jason Miller, everybody wants to talk to him. So they're chewing his ear off. But every time I would go to do Taxi by Harry Chapin, which I'm playing guitar and singing my heart out, he'd go, and I'll never forget, he'd go, yeah, all right, everybody, shut up. Mac is going to do Taxi now, right? I said, yeah. Okay. And so every night when I was going to do that, he would make the place shut up and stop talking, and I would do Taxi. So the one day I walk over afterwards, like I typically do, and I say, thank you for that. That's always sweet that you do that. He goes, I love the way you do Taxi. I wanted to do one of Harry's songs in my play. Oh, you're great. And he's talking to me. Well, he's had a few. And he, as some gentlemen do, they're very affectionate. So as I'm sitting there listening to him and going, oh, okay, that's neat. He goes, mwah. Big sloppy kiss on my cheek. Fine. But then I turn, and all my friends back at the table are going, how's your boyfriend? I'm like, I'm never living this down. But he's a good guy.
Or the Karras.
Yeah.
One of the best scenes is when his mother haunts him. And of course, it's not her,
Yeah.
Oh, what a great scene.
Well, I didn't even see that movie until
years later.
Maybe around, I don't know, mid-90s. I had like a Halloween party and people brought, whenever Scream came out, because Scream was just released on VHS. So somebody was bringing that. We rented The Exorcist and a couple others. So that was one where I'm like, okay, I've heard about this freaking movie my whole life. I know the guy who's in it. I should probably watch it. And everybody's like, and even though some have seen it already, but you have to pay respect and just nobody talk. Let the movie just wash over you.
Did it live up to your expectations?
Sure.
Oh, okay.
But you got to remember this brings me to music, which is where I wanted to go with you with this. when the world, all my life, and I've discovered this recently, ever since I was a kid, if the world tells you have to love something to be like it's the fad.
Star Wars was it.
Right. I go, I will discover it on my own.
Yeah.
I am not trying to keep up with the Joneses. If it's a fad, no. But that was one of those things like The Exorcist. They're like, you have to love The Exorcist. You have to love the Beatles. And, and I just went, wait a minute. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. In 86, up until 86, I had never heard about the Monkees.
Oh.
Because they weren't playing them on the radio. And, you turn on the radio, you'd hear the same doo-wop songs and the oldies or whatever, but nobody played the Monkees. So I didn't even know who they were. Well, as you know, they explode again in 86, and all my classmates, I'm 11 years old, I think. And all my classmates are, Monkees this, Monkees that, and became part of that. They turned to me. I remember the 16 magazine with Davy Jones getting out of a limo. And he had the long dyed pink hair. And the girl holding up, look, there's what Davy looks like now. And I went, hold on. I'm not jumping in with the rest of you. And for a good part of that year, I didn't. It wasn't until the summer, maybe even the fall, I'm flipping through the stations and they happen to be on. And I'll never forget what episode it was. It was Don't Look a Gift Horse. Right? And I turn it on and I go, all right, I'll see what all the fuss is about. And right away I connected with Nez. I'm like, that guy. I don't know his name yet, but I like him. He's funny. He's sincere. And coincidentally, they play Papa Jean's Blues. So that's the first Monkee song I hear. And I go, okay, so this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. I'm going to, because I always sang. I was always a singer. Yeah. But they made it where you saw like a working band show up to a gig. Hi, we're the band that was hired. I go, I want to do that. And I started to learn guitar and, the rest is history. But now I go back to school and I'm all about the Monkees. Well, now the rest of the class has moved on.
Oh, no.
You know what I mean? Because they're 11 years old. It's not, that was hip today, but now we're going to make fun of what was hip yesterday kind of thing. And so for the rest of my school years, I'm defending them because everybody would go with the rumors and, me, I'm going through the books. I'm reading everything. I'm getting to know the truth. And okay. And so up until I'd say now, you probably see this too. This new generation seems to understand and get it. They don't go with rumor and hearsay. They appreciate the Monkees for individually and on their own or together.
Sure.
As amazing as they are. But for the last 20 years before that, it was always me defending them. No, Nez doesn't hate the Monkees. No, yes, they played their own music, blah, 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 blah.
Well, Mac, what do you think it was like for me defending them and being an apologist for the 70s?
Well, that was my question. When did you get into them?
So I'm a first generation Monkees fan. Loved them because I was so young that when Pepper came out and the White Album came out, if they didn't have hits, I was still listening to AM radio.
Sure.
I'm hearing a little bit me, a little bit you. I'm a believer. This is hit after hit. I'm loving the Monkees. The Beatles are the top. The Monkees are just under them. And I'm loving these two bands to the point that when I grow up, I'm producing Beatles and Monkees conventions.
Yeah.
I ain't producing Doors conventions or Zeppelin conventions. I mean, these are my two favorites of all time. I'm very blessed that I got to, have close encounters with Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr and George Harrison and all the Monkees. I considered Peter and Davey friends. I'm so blessed. But we did some of the greatest Monkee conventions in '87, when the year after they, reunited. And I got to see the first show in '86 when they reunited in the Concord Hotel in the Catskills. I was up front row and I hung out with the guys and we played softball together. Very special. That next year, I helped produce the National Monkees Convention. Now, mind you, in '82, I produced a Monkees convention that Peter Tork showed up at. In those days,
I know the one you're talking about because I've seen pictures.
Yeah.
He had a 5 o'clock shadow, as I recall.
Right, absolutely. In Bridgeport, Connecticut, had the worst haircut, and he was just the sweetest. I interviewed him on stage. He talked about Lennon's passing, very historic. But up until then, no Beatle had ever come to a Beatles convention. Even Pete Best hadn't come to any of my conventions yet. No Monkee. You never believe that someone of those status would come to their own convention. But then it became the thing to do. I mean, what Monkee convention didn't have Mickey at it years later? Right. But in '87, we had Mickey, we had Peter, we had Davey, we had Boyce and Hart, Henry Diltz. It was like an all-star lineup, and they were great. They would always come and support the conventions because they loved their fans. They got it, and we got it. And Mac, you said something very interesting about the Monkees influencing you to become a musician. And you always sang, and you said, but they gave you the impetus to continue that as, and
to actually go, I'm serious about this. This is going to be my thing.
That clip of you saying that is the reason there should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, because you are one of zillions. Of people who were affected by the Monkees, who love the Monkees. Yes, a ton of them moved on. I get it. They grew up. They had lives.
I personally don't get that. I think once you love music, it stays with you forever. You know what I mean?
Maybe I'm referring to the collecting the 16 magazines and having every album and getting changes in present when they come out, and getting all the albums when they come out, and going to all the conventions and continuing on. Just today I got in the mail a Monkees book that I hadn't had before. Monkees Memories
and Magic.
I just didn't have it before, and I didn't have Monkee on my shoulder before. And I'm still, and this is one of my favorites. I'll give him a plug. Our friend Fred Velez.
Oh, sure.
2 books. One is called A Little Bit Me, A Little Bit You, and its follow-up to it was A Little Bit Me, A Little Bit You 2, which I edited and wrote the foreword for. And while we're talking Monkees, I gotta plug the fact that there's a Monkees, an all Monkees radio station called Monkee Mania Radio. It can be heard if you go to live365.com, and in the search bar, just do Monkees, and you will hear 24/7 Monkees, just like Sirius has a Beatles station. Live 365 has the Monkee station. It's free, and it's Monkees and more. So in a given hour, you're not just hearing, a handful of Monkee songs. You're hearing solo
deep cuts,
deep cuts, rare cuts, alternate versions. And what I like best is on the weekend, if you listen twice on Saturday and twice on Sunday, it's called the Monkees Interview Show. And why is it that so fun and so good? Because I host it.
Right.
And I've had such great guests, Chip Douglas and Bobby Hart and all the guys who've toured with them and are currently touring with them. It's been a fun ride, and every weekend people should listen to the Monkees Interview Show.
Well, I'll tell you, I was a solo singer-songwriter beforehand ever since, I don't know, mid to late 90s, I'd say. Boy, it's funny how time goes. But anyway, then I meet my wife. Well, I was in a band. It was called Folklore. Okay. So she comes along. Her harmony is perfect. She joins us. Well, then the third guy goes away. Because one of the things you learn as a musician is no band, you can't necessarily rely on anybody to stick.
Yeah.
They come and they go. They come and they go. Yep. So then we had to rename. What are we going to call ourselves? Called ourselves Harmony Constant. which
Wow.
is a Nez song.
Wow.
It was the first song we sang together.
Yeah.
It was our wedding song. We cut the cake to Papa Jean's Blues, but that's a different story.
Love it.
Yeah, we even invited Nez to the wedding, and he wrote back that he couldn't make it. But we figured, not because he's famous, but because when I met my wife, we were, like I was going to ask her out, and I said, "Oh, I was looking for you." She goes, "Oh, I was in the back playing with my band." I said, "Oh, you're a musician?" She goes, "Yeah." Well, I said, "Well, what kind of songs do you do?" "I'm a singer-songwriter." She goes, "We do a Mike Nesmith song." And I grabbed her and hugged her, and that's the one I was going to marry. So because of that, we had to invite Nez to the wedding. Well, long story short, we've been going by Harmony Constant ever since. And when we met Nez finally, not only did he know who I was, he loved my music.
Wow.
And he became a dear friend to me.
Wow.
I mean, the fact that in a crowd of 200 people, he'd see me and go, "Hey, Mac. Hey, Cindy. Hey, Nez." And everybody's looking at us like, "Who the heck are you?" And, he honest to God, and it's separate from the celebrity. When we watch him on TV or hear his music, you go, "Wait, that's the same guy that I love as if he were my next door neighbor." Like we had a great connection.
Yeah.
And when he passed, I'm still a wreck over it. Okay. You gotta come to terms with it. And it's not that I can watch him on TV. I can listen to his music and it doesn't affect me. But I could feel his hand on my shoulder talking to me as though he's still there. And that's when I lose it. That's when the tears come.
Wow, wow, wow.
But the fact that this guy who was my biggest influence of all time, Harry Chapin's up there too, but Nez, nobody beats Nez.
Yeah.
Because he could read the phone book and I would buy it. The fact that this guy became my friend, but also liked my music, that'll never get old.
Mind blowing.
Right?
Yeah.
So to be so blessed like that, how do you not go on?
Yeah.
I could never stop playing music. And of course, as we do at any of our concerts, I got to throw in some Nez stuff.
Good job. Good job.
Yeah.
I'll share with you, and being perfectly honest, Peter was the first for me. We were close up until he passed. We stayed in touch, came to a bunch of conventions, even a Beatles convention as my guest. Davey would call me out of clear blue sky, and I go, "Hello. Yeah. What are Beatle bubblegum cards worth?" Baby, yeah, it's David. Yeah, David. Yeah, a buck a piece. Okay, bye. Just like
he lived near here, He lived in Beaverton.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd always planned on one of these days, like I'll drive there and say hi. Next thing you know, he's gone. You're like, oh, because I got to meet all of them.
Right.
I was blessed that I got to a couple times.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, Davey's gone.
God, it's so heartbreaking. It's such a shock. And Mickey, I've probably interviewed, well, maybe Peter, more times. And so I was always close to them. And Nez, I never met. No. I had nothing, and I was always like, I don't know him. I'm not sure about him. He's, Davey, he doesn't join them. And now Davey's gone. And now all of a sudden he's back. I didn't know him. And when I met him, I changed.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, wow, what a beautiful person. It was at a meet and greet, and I was the first one there, and he was only going to do, the signing of the one item, and I brought a drumhead that the other signed, and he signed it, and I said, at the risk of embarrassing myself in front of all these people, can I hug you? And he hugged me.
Yep.
And from that day on, he changed me, and I loved him, and I think anyone who met him felt that.
Mm-hmm. You know who Mindy Sterling is?
No.
She was from the Austin Powers movie, the sidekick who would yell. Remember,
Yeah.
She's great. Well, we saw her at a convention. We were talking. She goes, "Who are you here to really see? Like, who's your one draw?" I said, "Well, we're friends with Nez, so anytime we can go to Chiller and see Nez, we're gonna, any opportunity. Well, she goes, oh, I never met him. I met Mickey, but I never met him. I said, do yourself a favor. You want to meet a beautiful person who is just as excited to meet everybody as you are to meet him. Like he wants to have that one-on-one.
Yes.
And she goes, okay, well, maybe I will. Later on, I caught her in the hall. She grabs me. She goes, all we did was talk about you. I'm like, really? I said, oh yeah, I met your friend with the band. He's like, oh, Mac and Cindy. Yeah. And so they were talking about me. And she goes, you're right. He is a beautiful person.
Wow.
And I just thought, that's so sweet. Like he was so unassuming. He was, you know what I mean? He was just always soft and caring and big with the hugs. He always gave me a hug. And you're right. Like I can't say enough about him. Some celebrities, all right, they're there because you want to see them. But with Nez, he would say, no, I want to have at least 5 minutes with each person.
But it took a long time for him to realize it.
Right. He never knew how, because he thought I did a thing, but nobody really cares. Like I would tell him, no, me alone. Look at how you've influenced my life. And this is before I met you.
Yes.
You and your work matters beyond,
And when that clicked, it clicked. It was monstrously clicking. It pow, and every opportunity he had to meet people and every conventions, and he got it. And as sad as it was on the last tour, and as heartbreaking as it was seeing him, in the frail state he was in, you knew he loved being on that stage and giving it back to the crowd.
And to cry every time he'd do While I Cry, like he you know what I mean? Like he'd allow himself to be vulnerable.
Correct. Yes. If you didn't love him before that, I mean, how could you not have loved him then? And I think that he lived on to be able to finish that tour, as crazy as that is, if that's even beyond human capability. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. A friend of mine or somebody had told me that he was just at peace. Like, okay, he could have fought longer to stay alive longer. But he just kind of went, I'm okay. I'll let nature take its course. And he just kind of let it happen. Now, I find that extremely brave, extremely admirable. But for me, on a selfish level, I'm like, no, I want more of you, Nez. Come on. But again, you got to admire someone who goes out on their own terms.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, he could have lasted longer, but what kind of quality over quantity kind of a thing?
Correct.
Yeah,
let's hope Mickey's out there for another 20, 30 years, just because his voice is still strong. He's still a great performer. And
did you go see him at the con?
I saw him. Yeah.
Okay.
I got the picture with him by the Monkee Mobile.
Oh, okay. That's a good one.
And I went to see him a few weeks ago in concert with Felix Cavalieri at the Count Basie Theater in Jersey. It's always my mindset, and you don't want to say it out loud, but you don't want it to be the last. You want to keep seeing these people who are our legends, because you don't know when the next time won't be the next. You know what I mean by that?
Exactly. It could be over tomorrow. You just never know.
I want to see Ringo again. I'm going every time the Beach Boys play. I want to see them. I wish Harry Chapin was still here.
Oh, well, Jim Croce was the first musician that I ever noticed as a little kid. As a little kid, my father would play his stuff, and he died I was born in 74. I think he passed in 73. Well, I would listen to Jim Croce. Jim Croce, Paul Simon would be playing in our house. So they were the first names I remembered. And, you'd listen to music. But again, around the time you're 10, I always say you should start expanding your horizons, not just what's in front of you or on the radio currently. You should start to go back. Yes. Well, of course, at the age of 11, Monkees hit, and now, boom! It wasn't just I know Jim Croce, I know Paul Simon. It was I need to know everybody, and and Harry Chapin around that time was I'd heard Cats in the Cradle, and my father had the short stories album on 8-track.
Huh.
But around that time, then as a teenager, I would sit and listen to that 8-track and go, no, I love this guy. I got to get everything he has.
Then I hit it by you saying Chapin and me throwing out Croce. I knew that had to be because there's such
right.
One, you love the other.
Yeah, exactly. And Cat Stevens. Cat
Yeah.
Stevens, I didn't even really pay attention to until the piano player at a bar at Kilcoyne's way back when played.
Morning is broken.
No, that was that. That, by the way, that song, because of Cat Stevens, we played at our wedding at like during the ceremony. Morning has broken as everybody's like sitting.
Let me give you an exclusive. I just did an interview with Robin B. She was Peter Tork's assistant, personal assistant for many years. And when her mom was very sick, she said, if she passes, I'd love for you, Peter, to record Morning is Broken. And he's like, oh, okay. And she never thought he would, and he did, and he put it on a cassette for her. And it hasn't been heard. It's never been played.
Wow.
Except we just did an interview with her for Monkee Mania Radio. And she said, what I have to let her know when it airs because she's going to let us play Peter Tork's version of Morning is Broken.
Nice.
With the interview. So that'll be like a world
exclusive. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it because of that, it really, because of Nez and I just went, okay, I can't limit myself. I need to give me Harry Chapin. Give me what was the song? One of his hits. Father and Son. He would play Father and Son, and I go, oh, I love that. Who is that? He goes, that's Cat Stevens, which they didn't play because when he became Yosef Islam or whatever, he kind of got in some trouble.
Oh, really?
So people had burned his albums and they weren't playing them on the radio. Well, since then, the world's come around, and now I have everything that he's done. Because again, if I like your stuff, I'm getting every possible thing.
Yeah, I don't know why. He was always, to me, the Anglo version of Donovan. I always thought that.
Sure.
If you took Donovan and made him a little folky and brought him to America, that's I always.
And it's weird because it's hard to describe Cat Stevens. A friend of mine made me a disc of his stuff, and I went, this is odd, but I like it. Like how do you write a song like that? Like some of these songs that he would do, they're great, they're brilliant, but how do you have enough confidence to go, yeah, I'm putting that down on paper? Because they're bizarre in a good way. They're just, there's no way to really, you have to really.
Al Stewart also, if you think of his stuff, it's the same bizarre. Oh yeah, okay. If you would think about it, I don't know how to categorize it. It's not going to work, and then you hear it, and it's wow. Yeah, there's a handful of those.
Right. But boy, if you find them, I was the same way with David Gray. With David Gray, when White Ladder came out 20 years ago or so, somebody said, oh, you're a musician. Tell me what you think of this, and threw the disc at me. So I brought it home, and it's got organic music, organic instruments, but it also had like a techno kind of edge to it. And I thought, I don't know if I like this because this is against anything I've ever heard before. And then I listened to it the second time. I went, I get it. And now I again have all the stuff, and
yeah.
So just for the listeners, are you on air every weekend?
Yes, every weekend, usually 10 a.m. and 10 p.m., but sometimes noon and midnight. It really depends on the scheduling. If there's a Facebook page for Monkee Mania Radio.
Yeah, I'm on it.
Yeah. And so
Jody actually sent it to me.
Oh, she sent you an invitation. Oh, good. And there's also, if you follow me on my Facebook page, I always will list on Friday night who my guest is and when I'm on. And this weekend, because it's a holiday weekend, and obviously this isn't going to air in time, but I'll have done a repeat of Bobby Hart.
Well, actually, I will get this up. I turn these around like pancakes. It's no big deal.
I never know. I never know if this is going to air, in a month or two. Because with Monkee Mania Radio, I'm still putting out interviews that I did during COVID time. So
Wow.
because I stockpiled about 40 or 50 interviews, knowing that when I get really nuts and busy, I may not be able to do as many as I was doing. So yeah. So but you're putting it out quick. That's cool.
Yeah, I put them out on. I'll do this video version for YouTube, and then I do an audio version for all the podcasting sites.
Awesome.
You know.
Great. I will share it as well.
But in the future, I'll have you back. We'll shoot the bull some more,
Yeah.
and it'll either be before your next book comes out or right after, because I want to help promote that.
Well, the next book is coming out in a matter of weeks, and
Really?
And it's true ghost stories of Connecticut, but we don't need to promote that one. That has its own audience. Let's promote that there's going to be a paranormal convention in Connecticut, July 16th through the 17th. It's called Paracon, and you can look it up by Googling Paracon. The book of top 10 horror lists, which I'm sure you were going to get to promote.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the website is www.book, take off the book of top 10, the number 10 horrorlists.com. You can get it on Amazon where it's getting great reviews, but if you get it through me, I can sign a copy, and that's always fun to do that. For our Beatle tours, it's liverpooltours.com. For the vampire vacations, it's dractours.com, DRACTOURS. No one's going to remember this, but maybe
No, it's on there because it's recording. So they're going to go, ooh, and they can always go rewind it a bit.
And Monkee Mania Radio on live365.com. Listen to all the great DJs. You mentioned Jody. She's one of them. One of the new Monkees. Marty Ross is another. Ken Mills, Alan Williams, Doug. I don't want to leave anyone out. Scott.
I know Ken. Ken's going to be on an episode in the future.
Yeah. And on the weekends, I'm honored to do the Monkees interview show.
Nice.
And maybe I could bring you on as a super fan, and we can talk about how Nez, formulated the things.
Harmony Constant.
Right?
Yeah, because I'll tell you, his songwriting alone influenced my work.
Right.
And his voice. Again, like I could just hear him read the phone book, and I'm thrilled. I get chills. You know that every once in a while you get an artist who, no matter what they do, you get your hairs on the back. That's him for me. That's always been him. But yeah, definitely, it'd be a pleasure to be on. I'd love that. All right. Well, we will let everybody go. We will catch you next time. Thanks again to Charles, who I will have on again in the future. We will shoot the bull and go through some more top 10 lists.
I would be honored.
Yeah. And remember, as always, stay excited, everyone. The Never Gets Old podcast is part of the Forever Adventure Network and made possible by your donations through Patreon. If you'd like to help us out, please go to the Forever Adventure Network by Mac Jackson on Patreon and help by subscribing, rating, and reviewing wherever podcasts are heard. We also have a Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube channel. The show's music is by Harmony Constant and available wherever music is sold. Thanks for listening, everybody. And remember, stay excited.
The Forever Adventure Network. Welcome to the adventure.
Has MacGyver inspired you to be kind and creative? Has Jack O'Neill inspired you to be a leader and be sarcastic? Well, then please check out the MacGyver podcast, where we celebrate Richard Dean Anderson and all of his iconic characters. We have life stories, episode reviews, and great conversations with actors and the people behind the scenes. We also have merchandise, blogs, art, and so much more, all through the Forever Adventure Network. Join us today, and remember, stay creative, everyone.
The Forever Adventure Network. Welcome to the adventure.